And we're live. Happy Wednesday, everyone, and welcome to the Mojo Show, where we talk everything real estate. I am your host, Joe Mortgage.
And I'm Cup of Joe Mortgage.
This week's episode, we're busting another big myth, mortgage myth that's out there, that it's cheaper to rent than buy. A lot of people assume this, but is that really the case? Because today we're going to break down all of it for you, separate fact from fiction. But before we get to that, of course, a little coffee talk with the Joes. Last weekend was the Masters, and Rory, what a finish he had.
It was fantastic to watch Sunday. I was rooting for Rose to take it after day two.
Yeah.
But Rory to come back with the things that he's went through was fantastic to watch, and he tried to give it away. Honestly, he tried to give it away on Sunday.
Yeah.
And just kind of watching it. What was your take on, the ending, that last putt? All he had to do was make it. And what was it, like a 4-footer, 6-footer, 7-footer, something like that? I mean, it's not a putt you and I would make.
No. I've made a couple of those, but not regularly. But that putt just burned the edge. I thought he had it personally. I really did, and just kind of burned the edge. And I'm like, oh no, because then it's a matter of he's got to regroup his emotions and that to be able to go do the playoff hole, and everything, and that's tough. But his drive on the playoff hole, he just striped it, put it in a perfect position.
Yeah. I mean, to the adversity that he overcame from having one of the worst rounds, or the worst round of the tournament for him, was Sunday. Mm-hmm. And it came down to making a putt and then missing that putt. The mental challenge that he had to overcome to go back and play one more hole after he saw Justin Rose, had shot a 66, I think, for that day.
Something like that. He burned it up.
Yeah, I mean, he was not in contention unless he had a heck of a round, which he did. And poor Justin Rose, 9 times leading and not winning a Masters yet.
Yeah.
But the character of that guy at the end, I don't know if you saw that interview, he was so happy for Rory because of the mark of having another person to, do a Grand Slam.
Grand Slam, yeah.
It's 25 years of that. So there's a lot of me that wanted Justin Rose to win it because he's been through so much and he's come through it. But Rory the same way. I've watched that one too. It's been amazing. I don't get into golf that much, but the Masters week, especially Masters Sunday.
Yes.
So that I was dozing in and out, to tell you the truth too. But when, after a hole 15, I think I woke up and watched the rest of it at that point. So.
Okay. Yeah, no, it was obviously unfortunate for Justin. It was 8 years ago. He was in the same position with Sergio Garcia, and on the first playoff hole, he lost to Sergio. Yeah. So this is the second time this has happened to him, and like you said, he still hasn't won the green jacket, and he's got the game for it. He does. Yeah. Justin does, and even though he's been around a long time, you can't count him out. Obviously. No. His game definitely fits the Masters, that course. It definitely does. So hopefully we'll see him back up there on the leaderboard next year. I was actually rooting from the beginning. I was rooting for Oberg.
Oh, okay.
Oberg. Yep. I think he's going to do some good stuff.
I think so too. He had that one blow up hole. He was so frustrated, the sand shots, the chipping and things like that. Your heart went out to him at that point. So, but we have things today to talk about, kind of overcoming kind of fear, in a way, of owning a house versus renting a house. So I'm really interested today to kind of dive in, and if you're listening, or if you're watching this later on, please make comments, ask questions in our Facebook Live, or even on our YouTube in the chat there. we want to be able to help you understand the things we're talking about, or understand the things that maybe you have a question about and you're just like, I don't know if I want to ask it. Because, I tell my kids there are no dumb questions.
Mhm.
I might make fun of my kids when they ask me certain
That's the right of a parent, though.
right. But we're here to help you guys understand this. And today, busting the myth of it's cheaper to rent versus buy. And Joe, let's get into that first part of it when it comes to, what is it? No, it's true, false. Is it cheaper to rent than to buy?
So that's kind of a mixed answer, right?
You
Because
can't answer it as a true, false, can you?
exactly, you really can't. And I think that's why people get stuck into the rut of renting. It's just easier, right? You've got a landlord, takes care of everything. You just pay the bill and boom, it's done, right? But the expense of it is very high. So if you look at someone who finds a rental property, you've got the first month's rent, security deposit, right? And if it's, say, a $2,000 month rental, I mean, that's $4,000 right there,
Right.
to move in. Yes, your rent might be each month might be a little bit less than, depending upon the home that you would pick out to purchase, but it's going to be around that neighborhood. At the end of 1 year, yes, it is cheaper to rent.
Okay.
But as we'll see here shortly, the numbers I put together for today's episode, just before 2 years, it's a big swing difference in buying, a big swing, because if you're paying rent right now, like we said, say $2,000 a month, that's $24,000 a year that you are just going out and throwing into the garbage.
I always kind of combat the throwing it in the garbage, right? Let's change that. You're throwing that in your landlord's pocket.
Well, yes.
I mean, garbage, yes, but you're living somewhere. But you're throwing $24,000 a year to your landlord, just handing over your hard-earned money that's building nothing for you. So instead, I get the garbage reference, but in actuality, people are like, well, I get to live there. Right. You do. But but you're gaining nothing from it.
Right.
So
exactly.
I like
mortgage.
Yeah, I like where you're going. You're talking about, short-term cost and long-term cost in a way, right?
Yes.
So when you're talking about that, you kind of mentioned it already up front and things like that from a cost standpoint. Do you have anything that we can kind of look at and show the viewers that you want to kind of go through more? Awesome. I like this.
So, like I said, I wanted to put this together for us today so that we can actually see numbers on this. So I'm going to work from left to right on this. And if you have any questions on this, or if you see something different on it, please let me know. We'd be glad to discuss it, drop your comments in below. On the left side, as far as the mortgage information, we'll get to the rent there in the middle in a moment, but let's look at the mortgage information. If you bought a home for $300,000 and I'm using an FHA on this, let's say the interest rate is 6.25%, which 10 days ago we could have gotten. But with the tariffs and everything, that's taken a big hit on our interest rates. I
gotta speak on it. It's not because of the tariffs that's making your rates change. It's because of the way these systems and the markets now try to play off of drama and things, in my opinion. That they're trying to figure out the ups and downs. And when there's mention of anything that we're trying to do that's different than the status quo, the market has not always gone in the right direction, right? So exactly. I want to make sure we say that, because I got a funny story for you, that'll be a different coffee talk about the tariff comment.
Okay.
So I want to make sure our viewers know it's not because they're putting tariffs in that's doing it. It's because of the investment into the country and the investments other places, that the mortgage-backed securities took a hit really, really hard. But it's starting to bounce back a little bit yesterday, and hopefully today we get a little bit more too. So
So
sorry, I know I went off track, but
6.25% interest rate, 30-year term. Down payments, I'm looking at 3.5%. That's the minimum down payment that you need for an FHA, 3.5%. So you're looking at $10,500 on a $300,000 home purchase. That would leave the mortgage, the balance of the mortgage, at $289,500. Let's say the starting date of the payment is March, just last month. Homeowners insurance, I mean, depending upon where you live, right? I'm averaging about $3,000, and the taxes, again, depending upon where you live, but I'm just trying to get an average in there of like 2%, right?
so
2%
I'm
on
going
the
to talk
purchase
on
price.
that. I want to talk on that real quick.
Okay.
If you live in like Arizona, California, and some other states, your property taxes, you're probably looking at $6,000, saying on 300,000. That's crazy. That Joe's basing these things off of where, in Texas and some of the other states that, property taxes are a little higher. And homeowners insurance in Texas right now, $3,000 on 300,000. I think you're spot on. Maybe a little low, but pretty close. We're seeing them anywhere from 250 to 350 in that price range. So, just wanted to touch on those two little things so people know why we're using those. So good job.
Exactly. And I'm glad you referenced that, because when I lived in Michigan, back when I was in Michigan, my property taxes when I left was $1,600 a year. $1,600. You believe that? $1,600. Yeah. And homeowners insurance was not $3,000. I think it was about $600 or $700 a year. So anyways, all right. So that's just kind of a look at what the mortgage would look like, an overview of it. But renting, let's say your monthly rent is $2,400, because really, if you look at renting a home, the value being around $300,000, at least in my area, if you're renting a home that has that kind of, you're paying a good $2,400 a month. Okay. Renter's insurance, just like you would have homeowners insurance. Hopefully you have, renter's insurance as well. I'm figuring about 1.3%. Rent appreciation, I think I went really low on this at 2%, because you figure 2%, that's only $50 a year that they would increase your rent.
Yeah. And right now,
I think that's pretty low.
A lot of investors that are buying homes now, they're increasing rent because they're now a new homeowner. So if your landlord has owned that house for a long time and they sell it, more than likely that rent's going to go up a lot more than the 2%.
Right.
So I agree with you, Joe. I think you're very low on that when it comes to showing them the numbers. So good job. Great kind of visual on that.
Before we do on the right there, the side by side, I got to throw this in here as far as what, Joe, you were talking about with the tariffs and the reason why and everything. Corey, thank you so much. Yes. Well said, Joe. Thank you for breaking all of that down. So appreciate your comments, Corey.
Yeah. And we know Corey very well. Yes. She's our head of our marketing department at U Mortgage, a wonderful person that helps support us and gives us a lot of insight and helps us, kind of like with Joe, with this thing that you're building out. Marketing helps us with a lot of things like that too. So thank you, Corey, for listening in.
Appreciate your support. All right. So if we do a side-by-side, right over there on the right, a little side-by-side of the numbers, renting, real simple. If we take all the numbers that I gave in the middle, you're looking at $58,932 over a 2-year period. So that's rent, that's insurance, that's the rent increase, everything, almost $59,000 over a 2-year period. Mm-hmm. Now, if you buy, well, you're going to have, as far as your upfront costs, in the 70,000 there, you're looking at all of your first and second year mortgage payments, the amount to be able to, as far as your down payment, closing costs, everything essentially that you're going to put into the first 2 years of being there. Now, the value of the home, though, is going to go up. It's going to appreciate, right? So you're looking at, over a 2-year period, almost $25,000. Gain, right, of equity in the home. Balance of the mortgage is going to go down after 2 years. And then, I've got closing costs in here. I did separate that out. So when we add and subtract all this up, you're at 43,000 over a 2-year period, 43,000 and change. That is a big swing.
Yep.
Now in the first year, no, you're further ahead renting, but after the second year, you're ahead by almost $16,000.
Yeah, with the appreciation of your house, the baying it down, and things like that. This is a great way to look at things because, I want our viewers to know we're not talking about, you might, the out-of-pocket cash might be a little bit more when you're buying in that first 2 years, but your net worth and your gain of buying helps you with your wealth and selling that property. One of the things that my dad said, well, if you're renting and you move out in 2 years, you have nothing. But if you sell your house, if you buy and in 2 years you sell your house, even for this, the same as what you bought it for, with the adjustment for maybe a real estate agent's 6%, you live there for free. Even if you didn't gain anything, you at least live there for free. So you didn't waste any money from that standpoint. And I always kind of look at that and talk to, people that are renting versus buying, and that 2-year mark. And I love how this kind of puts that out there. This 2-year mark really shows where that break even is. So, thank you for showing this, Joe. I'll let you keep going, but I like how this is out.
And just so that everybody knows, I didn't pull these numbers out of the air. Okay. I took these, if any of you are familiar with MBS Highway, which love MBS Highway, big shout out to them. They have a great mortgage calculator to be able to do the side-by-side comparison as far as rent versus buy. So it was truly helpful in putting those numbers together. So I did not just pull these numbers out of the air, right? They're calculated out to the penny, essentially. So it is like you said, Joe, it is a 2-year kind of break even, if you will. 1 year. I know we're kind of very long-winded answering your original true or false question, but this is it. Right.
Well, this is kind of how we do it, right? We go into a question and then we kind of go down the topics that we're talking about. And I love how this gives you the visual of, okay, $70,000 in cash spent, but then after you get the equity, it's teaching people how to build wealth more than just living a life, right? The wealth is always a good thing to have for later on in life, but it's teaching, if you do this at a young age. And my nephew, we've talked about him before, came out of high school, is working as a plumber, getting his journeyman license, bought a house when he was 21, just bought it last year. The equity he's already building, he's seeing it. And if we can get people younger understanding this is where it'll help the economy, it'll help their futures and things like that. So this is a great just way to show it.
You know what? I'll even extend this. Parents, if you're trying to educate your college student, or young adult on these things, or realtors, if you have, clients that are renting right now and you're trying to help them fire their landlord, essentially, if you want this slide, DM me, right? Shoot me a message and I'll email this to you. I'll send this slide to you. I'll extend that to everyone. Joe's got up our email addresses. If you want to DM me on Facebook or shoot me an email, either Joe or I will send this slide out to you if you think it would be a help in illustrating going through the numbers with those that you're trying to help. So because we, again, Joe and I are doing this whole podcast because we want to try to help as many homeowners or future homeowners as possible by educating. So if it helps you in doing the same thing, we'll be more than happy to extend it to you.
Yeah. Now, we talked about it with these numbers already, Joe, but the 100% of your rent goes to a landlord, and knowing that you get to live there, and things like that. And one of the things that we need to talk about too is the cost sometimes of maintenance. People think when you buy a house, oh, well, if this goes out or if that goes out. One thing that first time home buyers and people that buy homes now, they need to understand you can get a home warranty.
Yes.
And a home warranty, a lot of times you can get the seller to pay for the first year. They're about $500 to $700 on good ones, to where it covers your big items. It covers like your AC units.
Right.
Excuse me. It covers some appliances. It covers a bunch of different things that are expense, but though you're only paying on it on a yearly basis, and you can renew that every year too. I don't know if people understand that you can renew your home warranties and keep them going. It's not just a 1 year thing when you buy a house. So if you want to make sure, hey, if I feel comfortable at $600 a year paying, so I know if my AC unit goes out, I can go through the servicer, pay a service charge of $75, have somebody come out and then they repair it. Or if it has to be replaced, they have, that the negotiations are done by that company. That can help you offset some of that extra expense that you're worried about.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. So that's one thing that, that's not in this chart, but those are one-offs. Not everybody has to replace an AC unit. Not everybody has to replace, a septic system and things like that. But, those are things that come on. And if a landlord has to do that, your rent's going up.
Yeah.
So, it's not like you're getting a landlord to fix everything for free and not worry about when your lease comes up, them going in and increasing that rent.
And that's another good point, is that your rent, most likely it's going to increase every year. But your mortgage payment, as far as the mortgage itself, I want to clarify that, right? I know where even though you're sipping on that coffee, I saw it in your eyes, Joe. You were going to catch me on this. The principal and interest on your mortgage, because the mortgage loan it's a simple interest loan. That does not change. The only thing that can change in your monthly mortgage payments is your homeowner's insurance and property taxes. That's it. But the property taxes and interests on your mortgage, you actually get to use that as a write-off on your taxes.
Yep.
So that's a benefit. You can't write off your rent, right? I mean, unless you are, working from home and, you have a certain amount of space of your home that you're using for your business. But otherwise, that money that you're, again, I know that we keep beating the dead horse here, Joe, but it's the money that you're giving to your landlord. You're paying your landlord's rent, not yours.
So I'm gonna flip it on us, right? Okay. There are times that renting is better than buying. For instance, like Joe said, if you are only going to be in that house or that area for a year, we have a lot of people that go for jobs, and maybe it's a contract place, maybe it's something that you're going and it's the short time limit on it. Renting in that case could benefit you more if you're not going to hold on to the house. Let me make sure I clarify that. So if you're not wanting to add to a portfolio of rental places because it's, on the other side of the country from where your family is and where your primary is going to be, and you want a short term, renting in those cases are smart because you're going to be out of pocket less money. But if you want to hold on to that house for another 2 years to see how the rental market's doing, then buying makes sense. So short term, places that you're going to be is one. The other one that I kind of talked about, and we talked about yesterday, Joe, was moving your family from one spot to the other and not knowing the areas and trying to make a decision. Buying a house is fine if you know the area and you have that good insight. But we've had some clients that they bought a house, they moved from one state to another, they bought a house, and a year later they're not happy because the house was not, it wasn't the house, but the neighborhood wasn't what they wanted. The school district wasn't as good as they thought it was based on what they saw. So doing some of those is fine to rent too, until you want to secure, okay, hey, we now know where we want our kids to go to school. We now know that we're going to be in this area because we like this type of neighborhood. It's okay to rent on a short term in those situations too. Absolutely.
Very much agree, because and if you are looking, when you move like that, say you get transferred with your job, what have you, if you are moving from one state to the other, get with a good realtor, because they're going to help you as far as like school districts, what ones are better. that you would want to be in, if that's what you're really looking for, if you do have children or thinking of having children in that. So lean on your realtor in that area. Make sure you get, one that is very knowledgeable, because they will help you with that. So good stuff.
Oh, and Joe, I'm going to throw another curveball at you. I just thought about this because we're coming up to the end. Next week, we are going to have to take that day off because I'll be in South Dakota at a leadership meeting with Chris Vincent and some of our other leaders from U Mortgage.
Really?
Windsor. Yeah. So I'm going to give Chris a shout out, another company that supports us very well here at U Mortgage. We're, some of us leaders are going there and doing a leadership meeting. So really very excited about that, but I forgot to tell you that yesterday. So I will be up there next Wednesday. So we will have to postpone next Wednesday's show to the week after.
Well, here's what I think. I think while you're up there, we get Chris on the show, right, next week. Right?
I don't know if I can get into that. I think he's already got an agenda for the day. I don't know if he's going to break that up for me, but you know what? I don't mind asking him. I know he'll come on the show. I think he would come on the show the following week.
He would. Man, we'd love to have him on the show. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We could make that work. We should have Anthony on sometime.
We do. We need to start getting more. And Corey would be a great one to get on too.
Yeah, actually.
And that's another thing. If you're a real estate agent or another person, like an insurance person, and that you want to try to see what you want to talk about, please reach out to Joe and I, because any topics, we love to know different topics. Right now we're doing the busting mortgage myths, but we try to put things together to where it educates. So we'd love to have you on the show too.
Absolutely. We would love to be able to promote you, across all social media, as we're doing right now. We've had a number of different realtors on. We've had them on a few times even, and other people in the entire, anything that deals with a house, essentially, right? If it's insurance, if it's a plumber, HVAC, roofing, whatever, we'd love to have you on the show sometime. Well, before we wrap things up, Joe, let's talk a little bit about some pro tips, so to speak, that people can take away from all of this. So what is one that you would extend to those out there that are renting right now?
I think the biggest one for me is knowing who you're helping builds wealth with. What I mean by that is, are you building wealth for yourself, or are you helping somebody else build their wealth? So knowing that your rent, 100% of your rent goes to the landlord and is interest for you that you can't write off.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the biggest pro tip, is you're building another person's wealth by renting long-term.
Good one.
So, that one is the one that I like the best.
Okay.
What about for you, Joe? Which pro tip do you have for the viewers?
I would say that home ownership, to me, in my brain, it means independence. To be able to own your own home, there is such a feeling of that, of independence, and being able to do what you want, whatever color you want on the walls, however you want the place to look. It's up to you.
Watch some of those colors that you put on the wall, though. They get a little funky when we got to look at them. But you're right. The independence. If I want to hang a picture, if I want to mount a TV, things like that, I don't have to call and get permission, or I don't have to make sure I try to cover it up so well that when I move out, I get my security deposit back.
I mean, just think of when the first time that your very first car. That's the best way I can relate it. With the first car you owned, I mean, if you did not feel a sense of independence with that first car that you own, it's going to be the same thing with owning your home. It really is.
That's a good one right there. I've never heard that. So,
well, we are at the end of the show, so we'll just kind of recap things here. If you're wondering whether it makes sense for you to continue renting or buy, reach out to Joe or I. We would love to be able to counsel with you and walk you through some of the numbers specific to what you're currently doing and what your goals are, possibly in owning a home. Our email addresses are there. Shoot us a message, or you can DM us on Facebook, if you will. Next week, we're going to continue on our series, but I apologize, Joe. Next week, you're going to be gone. So 2 weeks from now, everyone, we'll continue on our series of busting mortgage myths, because after all, there's just so many of them out there. So tune in 2 weeks from now at our usual time, Wednesday mornings, 9 a.m. Central, as we cut through all the noise and bust the myth commonly heard out there. And this is a big one because of some recent changes. You have to be a U.S. citizen to buy a home.
Oof,
so that's especially with some of the changes that have come up recently. So thank you, everyone, for listening in on today's show. If you know of anyone who might be able to glean from the information we've covered today, or if you want to catch up on some of the other myths that we've been busting or any of our other episodes, go to our YouTube channel at The Mojo Show Real Estate Podcast. And while you're there, be sure and hit the subscribe button, because we are on a mission to get to 1,000 subscribers. And every like, comment, and share helps us reach more home buyers just like you. So before we close things out, any last words or nuggets of advice for our listeners, Joe?
Just want to say thank you to everybody that likes and subscribes to us. And thank you for the participation today, especially Corey, for putting some comments in there for us. I really appreciate you guys listening in.
Even if it was telling you how good of a job you do.
Yeah, I mean, that buttered me up a little bit. That's good too.
Well, I'm Joe Mortgage, and that handsome guy with a beard is Cup of Joe Mortgage, and we'll see you next week.
Mr.